it's a wild one. To set the stage, we've got a whole stack of recent articles.
Oh, cool.
From Kenyan news outlets, like The Standard and Business Daily Africa.
Gotcha.
And they're all painting this like really fascinating picture.
Yeah.
Of how Kenya's basically on the verge of this major shift in how they look at crypto.
Interesting.
For years, they've had this like soft ban, you know?
Right.
But now it seems like they're kind of laying the groundwork to actually like legalize and regulate this whole booming industry.
I see. Yeah.
So the big question is, why now?
Yeah. Why are they making this move?
Right. Why is Kenya suddenly jumping on the crypto bandwagon?
And what does it mean for all the Kenyans already using it?
Exactly. What does it mean for them?
And like, how does this all fit into the global picture of crypto regulation?
Big questions, right?
Huge.
So let's dive in. This whole situation is pretty paradoxical, what do you say?
Absolutely. It's like they banned cryptocurrencies, but now
they're admitting that tons of people are using it.
Yeah, especially young Kenyans. And businesses struggling with those currency fluctuations. It's all over these articles.
It's wild. And it's not just anecdotal either.
Right. Like the IMF even did a whole survey.
They found that using crypto in Kenya is super common.
Yeah, especially those stable coins like Tether. Businesses are using them for international payments, especially when there are dollar shortages, you know.
It's like they're trying to hold back this tidal wave with like a tiny little sieve.
Totally.
So what's the deal? Why the change of heart?
Well, money talks, right?
Always does.
The Kenya Revenue Authority.
Is it KRA?
Yeah, the KRA. They've already collected billions of shillings in taxes from crypto users.
Billions.
Billions.
Yeah, so maybe they're seeing those dollar signs and realizing they could be missing out on this huge revenue stream. It's almost comical, isn't it? Like first they try to ban it, and now they want a piece of the pie.
The irony is not lost on anyone, that's for sure. But it also kind of reflects this bigger trend we're seeing globally.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Governments everywhere are wrestling with this decentralized tech, trying to figure out how to make it fit their existing rules.
So how's Kenya planning to do that?
So they're taking a two-pronged approach. You see, this draft policy they've got involves both the Central Bank of Kenya,
The CBK.
right, the CBK,
Yeah.
and the Capital Markets Authority, the CMA.
Two regulators. Seems a bit much.
Well, the idea is the CBK will handle crypto payments and currencies, and the CMA will oversee the trading and exchanges.
Makes sense, I guess. But wouldn't it be easier with just one regulator?
Maybe, but other African nations are doing the same thing, like South Africa and Botswana. Even the US is doing something similar.
So two regulators it is. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the regulations,
Yeah.
we need to understand why Kenyans are so into crypto in the first place. What's the appeal?
Well, these articles paint a pretty clear picture. For many Kenyans, crypto,
Especially those stablecoins.
especially stablecoins like Tether, they offer a hedge against that weakening shilling and all that crazy inflation.
No, they're trying to protect their savings.
Exactly. It's a way to safeguard their money in a more stable currency.
Yeah.
Especially with those dollar shortages going on.
That's happening all over the world, right?
Oh, yeah. Crypto's becoming like a life raft for people stuck in these turbulent economic waters.
The life raft, huh? That's a good way to put it.
And it's not just individuals protecting their savings. These articles also talk about businesses using stablecoins for international payments.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's faster, cheaper, and sometimes even more reliable than traditional bank transfers.
So you've got Kenyans using crypto to solve real-world problems, while the government's playing catch-up with all these regulations.
Yeah, it's like this tension between everyday innovation and top-down control. Really fascinating.
Absolutely. It's like the government is trying to control something they don't even fully get, something that's already woven into their economy.
Right, they see the potential money they can get, but do they really get the potential positive impact?
I guess we'll have to see.
We will.
Okay, so let's break down these proposed regulations. This draft national policy on virtual assets and virtual asset service providers.
Sounds pretty serious, right?
It does, doesn't it? But the interesting thing is, they actually start by acknowledging why virtual assets have taken off in Kenya, like people wanting alternative investments, faster and cheaper cross-border transactions.
Even wanting more privacy with their finances.
Exactly. So they get the appeal, but then they go into this whole list of risks: money laundering, terrorism financing, tax evasion, fraud, like everything under the sun.
Sounds familiar, almost like they're justifying trying to control it by pointing out every possible negative thing.
Yeah, kind of. It's like they ignore that people are using it because the existing system isn't working for them.
Exactly. And their solution is that two-pronged approach.
Two-pronged approach with the CBK and the CMA.
Right, right. And the draft policy talks about creating a fair, competitive, and stable market for virtual assets. But how can they do that if they're trying to impose all these rules from a centralized system onto something that's decentralized?
Yeah, good luck with that.
Right. It's like fitting a square peg in a round hole.
Definitely.
So one of the key things they're proposing is licensing for what they call virtual asset service providers.
Or VASPS.
VASPS. Catchy.
Right. So that's anyone involved in the exchange, transfer, custody
Yeah.
of cryptocurrencies.
So basically, if you run a crypto exchange in Kenya, you need to get permission from either the CBK or the CMA.
Exactly. Depending on what specific services you offer. And of course, that licensing process is going to come with a whole bunch of requirements.
Yeah.
Proving your financial stability, implementing all these anti-money laundering measures, data protection, the whole shebang.
Sounds bureaucratic.
Very.
Maybe even a little stifling, potentially. So it makes you wonder, right? Is this really about protecting consumers and the financial system? Or is it about controlling something that kind of threatens the status quo? It's a good question. And it's this tension we see playing out everywhere. With crypto regulations, governments are used to calling the shots in a centralized world, but crypto flips that model on its head, and they're scrambling to figure it out.
So what does all this mean for the average Kenyan who's already using crypto?
Yeah, what's going to happen to them?
Will these regulations make things easier or just more complicated?
That's the big question, isn't it? The million-dollar question really depends on how they implement and enforce all this stuff. If they're too heavy-handed, it could push crypto underground, discourage innovation.
That would be good.
Not really.
Yeah.
But if they can find a way to balance oversight with that dynamism that crypto has, maybe it could create a more stable and secure environment.
It's a tough balancing act.
It is a delicate one. And the outcome, well, it'll have ripple effects throughout the Kenyan economy and its place in the global crypto scene.
It's a global thing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Kenya's not alone in this. Lots of countries are wrestling with these same questions. This whole regulatory landscape for crypto, it's still changing all the time. No one's really got a clear playbook yet.
So everyone's just figuring it out as they go.
Pretty much. But in Kenya's case, it feels like they're trying to control something that's already got a life of its own, you know?
Huh.
These articles keep showing how Kenyans are using crypto in their daily lives, not just as an investment, but as a real tool to deal with economic challenges.
Real tool. Makes you think.
It does. So let's move away from the theory for a bit and look at how Kenyans are actually using crypto to solve real-world problems.
Let's get real for a second. These articles, they're not just talking about theories and stuff. They're about real Kenyans using crypto to solve everyday problems.
Exactly. It's not just abstract, right? We were talking about those stable coins earlier, how Kenyans are using them to protect themselves from inflation.
And that weak shilling.
Yeah, the shilling. Think about what that actually means for people. They're using this technology to protect their savings, their hard-earned money, from forces they can't control.
It's powerful, right? It shows how crypto can give people more control
Whoa.
over their own finances in a way that traditional systems sometimes fail to do.
Yeah, especially in countries where the economy is shaky or where people don't have easy access to banks.
Right, right. And it's not just individuals either. The articles talk about businesses too, using those stable coins for international payments.
Totally. Faster transactions, lower fees, and a way to get around those dollar shortages.
It's like crypto is offering this whole other financial system, one that's more efficient and easier to access.
It is. And it's kind of mind-blowing to see how quickly it's all happening. Governments all over the world are trying to figure out what to do.
So let's zoom out for a minute. How does Kenya's move towards regulation fit into the bigger picture? Globally, I mean.
Well, like we talked about before, there's no one right way to regulate crypto. Some countries ban it completely. Some are more open to it. It seems like Kenya's trying to find a balance.
Between the potential benefits.
And the risks, yeah.
Makes sense.
They're not alone either. South Africa, Botswana, they're also working on regulating the industry, trying to make crypto part of their existing financial systems.
But isn't there a chance that too much regulation could stifle the innovation? The very thing that makes crypto so exciting.
Oh, for sure. It's a tricky situation. If Kenya's regulations are too strict, it could drive everything underground, discourage people from coming up with new ideas and businesses.
It's ironic, right? The government wants to control something that's designed to be decentralized, uncontrollable almost.
It is. It's like trying to put a fence around the internet.
Exactly.
But maybe that's the big takeaway here. Crypto is making us rethink everything. How we control things, how we govern, It's making us rethink financial systems and the role of government in a world where things are becoming more and more decentralized.
And that conversation's happening everywhere, not just in Kenya. So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I think the big question for our listeners is, what does all this mean for you?
That's it, yeah. How do you feel about crypto becoming more mainstream in Kenya? And by extension, the global economy. Is it a good thing? A bad thing? Does it make you excited? Worried?
Those are tough questions. And there's no easy answer. It depends on your own perspective, your own values. But one thing's for sure, crypto is here to stay. It's changing how we think about money, about finance, and it's forcing us to ask some really fundamental questions about control, innovation, and the future.
Yeah, and this deep dive, this was just the tip of the iceberg. There's
Yeah.
so much more to learn, to explore.
So keep learning, keep asking questions. And who knows, maybe you'll be part of this whole crypto revolution.
You never know.